Are you ready for some wrestling? Or maybe you're ready for some football. But either way, happy Super Bowl Sunday, everyone. This is Kevin from the Two Bros Wrestling Show. Today we have a very special edition, a bite-sized edition, if you will, of the Two Bros Wrestling Show. We're taking off tonight so everyone can enjoy the game, so we do not have our regular live broadcast, but we didn't want to leave you without giving you at least a glimpse into the world of professional wrestling for the past week. So we promise what we have here is more entertaining than whatever is going on the pregame for the Super Bowl, and we'll have you off in enough time to enjoy the game later on tonight. So quick look at the news this week. The primary story that I think everyone's talking about this week is just the condolences that all are given to the family and friends and fans of Butch Reed, who passed away this week. Butch was a legend in the world of professional wrestling, particularly those who remember 80s wrestling will remember Butch. He actually does have a football connection. He played professionally with the Kansas City Chiefs prior to becoming a professional wrestler. He started in Mid-South Wrestling, had some very famous feuds there in Mid-South with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and the like. Actually earned the nickname Hacksaw himself. At that time was being known as Hacksaw Butch Reed. He worked a lot of the territories. He worked in World Class. He worked in Georgia Championship Wrestling. He had a memorable run in WWF at the time, now WWE. And then it sort of ended his big, the career he had on the big stage in WCW as half of the tag team Doom with Hall of Famer Ron Simmons. So again, our condolences to the family, friends, and fans of Butch Reed. Other news coming out this week in the world of professional wrestling, probably the news that will have the most impact moving forward on all of wrestling, is the announcement that the WWE Network as we know it is going to cease to exist. The streaming rights for World Wrestling Entertainment programming have all been sold in the United States to Peacock, the streaming platform ran by NBC Universal. And the switch will be happening in the month of March, so please stay tuned. We are going to dedicate an entire show. Obviously, this is something that has far-reaching impact on all the world of professional wrestling, how we all view our pay-per-views moving forward. WrestleMania this year will be on Peacock and not on the WWE Network. They're going to be transferring folks over from their current subscriptions to a Peacock subscription. So here in a couple of weeks, we want to do a show that is going to deep dive into this, emerging topic and exactly what this means, why it was a good deal for WWE, why it was a good deal for NBC, and most importantly, what it means for you as fans and how this will change your viewing habits and what you need to know about, getting your subscription and all your devices and things ready to have uninterrupted service of WWE programming that on demand and live content that you currently watch on the WWE Network. There's other news this week in the world of streaming as it relates to professional wrestling as well. Pluto TV, which is the largest ad-supported free streaming service out there, added a 24/7 linear wrestling channel. So they have a pro wrestling channel now as offered on their slate of services. And what they've done is that they've inked contracts with a lot of the top independent promotions. So things like Beyond Wrestling, Defy Wrestling, those promotions are now featured on this 24/7 channel that is available for free on Pluto TV. So more wrestling for you to watch and access. Good thing. And then the last bit of streaming news that is also a pretty big deal is New Japan Pro Wrestling has returned to United States audiences with a TV contract here in the States. They have announced that they are going to be airing their NJPW Strong broadcast on the Roku channel. And you do not have to have a Roku in order to get the Roku channel if you're not familiar and think that just by the name that it's only available on Roku. The Roku channel app is available on many different types of streaming devices. So New Japan Pro Wrestling probably wanted a more traditional contract with a U.S. provider. Many of you will remember that they used to air on Access TV, where Impact now airs. And ever since that contract expired. New Japan Pro Wrestling has not been available to United States wrestling fans unless you subscribe to their streaming service. So getting back in the U.S. market has been very important for for New Japan, and so it's good for them that they're back, and they probably wish that they were on, TNT like AEW or something like that, but that's not in the cards. But this could be a step in getting back in front of more eyeballs of American fans. So download the Roku Channel app and you have access to New Japan Pro Wrestling's weekly TV series. And speaking of New Japan, that's a good way to spin into our next topic. But AEW Dynamite this week had a very exciting conclusion for wrestling fans as Kenta appeared at the end of the main event in a surprise to attack Jon Moxley, and that is a continuation of the storyline that Moxley and Kenta have in New Japan. But really more importantly than that is it's a sign that the alliance that AEW currently has with Impact Wrestling is not the only alliance that they are looking at, and it is not the only promotion that they are hoping to align with. So potentially there is now a working agreement between New Japan and AEW. Obviously that was for this night, hopefully not a one-off, because I think Impact and AEW aligning is exciting, but I think for American wrestling fans especially, who may not be as familiar with Japanese talent as they are with some of the Impact guys, because those guys have been on US TV and different promotions and things. A lot of them have. It could be exciting and a good way to see some of your AEW favorites mix it up more regularly with New Japan talent. So definitely stay tuned with that. And less happy news as far as, comings and goings. We have some releases to report. Usually around WrestleMania season, WWE tends to trim their roster some with some strategic cuts, but obviously the pandemic's created some different situations, some different economics, and so we're seeing some cuts this year right around Royal Rumble time. Most notably is Lars Sullivan was quietly released in January. And I say quietly because the WWE never really went out and announced, as they often do, that they wish someone well in their future endeavors. It was actually Lars himself who admitted that he had been released. You wouldn't know to miss him because he hasn't been on TV since the fall. His whole tenure with WWE really has been marked by backstage controversies, some mental health issues, backstage behavioral problems, public comments that he's made that have led to controversies. So he had been off TV for a while and then reappeared in October, and even seemed as if they were getting ready to give him, a push. He got some high profile wins over main event talent like Jeff Hardy, and then they started doing these backstage vignettes, these interviews with him that made it seem like they were preparing him for something big, and then he just disappeared at the end of October and never came back. He pretty much has admitted, recently when talking about being released, that he suffered from incredible anxiety, crippling anxiety, really. Just the thought of being on TV and pre-performances, it was just not only eating him up inside and affecting, his behavior and the way he felt. That it's more than just being released from WWE for him at this point. He also said that he needed to retire from pro wrestling, so you're not going to see him popping up in AEW or anything. Lars Sullivan has retired following his release from WWE. Best of luck to Lars in his future endeavors. Steve Cutler was someone else who had some controversies during his stint with WWE. With his, off-camera comments, his alliance as part of the Fortunate Sons, his partner in the Fortunate Sons there is still with the company, but, working a program right now with Elias, but he had some very controversial online comments and things. So the Forgotten Sons, I called them the Fortunate Sons earlier. The Forgotten Sons were a team that never really did much for me, but I don't like seeing folks lose their jobs. Steve Cutler recently returned to TV and, looked like he was going to be a lackey for Baron Corbin. And just as quickly as he returned, he was gone, and now suddenly he's released. So, best of luck to Steve Cutler if he continues in wrestling, pops up somewhere else, and hopefully he'll get more of a chance to show what it is he can actually do. All these moves are coming out of Royal Rumble, so we'll have some other, Royal Rumble related news here because, the night after Raw, Damian Priest, who had made a significant appearance at Royal Rumble, was obviously promoted. He appeared on Raw, and it appears to be now that this is permanent. Might be working a program heading into WrestleMania season with Bad Bunny, who seems to be sticking around, so stay tuned for that. But Damian Priest is now on the main roster and Raw. Christian, who made a surprise return during the Royal Rumble. Many people very likely thought that this was a one-off nostalgia pop sort of thing for the Rumble. As it turns out, Christian has since in an interview talked about the fact that he is back. He'd had basically retired kind of early in his career because of some issues, medical issues, but he has been medically cleared to not only return to the ring and in a one-off situation protected in a Rumble, he's been returned to have more regular action, and so he's going to be working a part-time schedule with WWE, and he signed that part-time contract. So more Christian to come. Carlito is another who made a surprise appearance at Royal Rumble. Again, most folks thought, I know I did at the time, like, well, that's a great return for Carlito. You don't see Carlito on WWE TV very much. He left on bad terms more than a decade ago. Looked great. And then the next night on Raw, there he was in a match. And then this week on the WWE talk show, The Bump, he gave appearance, talked on that. So it left one to wonder if maybe he was going to be sticking around for a bit in WWE and maybe had signed a contract. And it looks like that too may be the case. In fact, he has mentioned the fact that he would like to help behind the scenes. So while he is currently being used sporadically as an on-air talent, this might just be a way to transition him into a role as a producer behind the scenes with the company. And then notable by his absence at the Rumble was Keith Lee. That was one of the folks that many folks kind of had predicted could be a potential winner of the Rumble. And he wasn't even in the match. And at the time, we all wondered why there wasn't a Keith Lee appearance. Rumors were, that strong that Keith could have been someone that might have been picked to win the Rumble. And I guess we'll never know what the plans actually were for Keith. He wasn't absent, as it turns out, for any sort of disciplinary reasons or any sort of punishment or lack of faith from Vince McMahon, which was a rumor a month or so ago when Keith got sent back to wrestling school, essentially. But Keith Lee wasn't in the Royal Rumble this past week because his real life wife, Mia Yim, had tested positive for COVID, and therefore Keith, who was asymptomatic, was quarantining at home. So that's why he didn't participate. What effect that had on the Rumble itself, what had to be rewritten, is one of those things we'll never know. Obviously, Edge winning was a kind of a surprise, not expected by most, but congratulations to Edge, and look forward to seeing Keith back on TV. Just glad that there's nothing more to that and nothing wrong there. And so the last bit of news we have before we end this special edition is football related. Apparently there's some sort of football event happening today. I don't know, not really a fan, Doug and I. But no, the Super Bowl is taking place in a few hours at Raymond James Stadium there in Tampa. And I wanted to bring that to everyone's attention because the location is what I really wanted to bring your attention. That is the same venue that WWE is going to be running here in a couple of months for 2 nights of WrestleMania. So Raymond James Stadium there in Tampa tonight is sort of a test, really, in some ways, to see through tonight's game what might be in store for wrestling fans here in a couple of months. Just this week, the officials with the NFL have announced an increase in the amount of fans they would be allowing in. And so the final count was 25,000 fans, 7,000 or so of those, I should say, 25,000 people. 7,000 or so of that number are going to be folks that are involved with the broadcast, working behind the scenes. But obviously WWE has the potential, if they wanted to maybe get more people into the venue than that, since they have the ability to put fans on the field. Obviously, that's still 2 months away, so there's much that could happen in regards to the coronavirus, the current coronavirus situation, variants, that sort of thing. So definitely stay tuned, but tonight could be a preview as to how WWE manages and attacks their plan for WrestleMania here in April. And that is the Two Bros Wrestling Show for this week from the One Bro. And thank you for tuning in. Thank you for continuing to support our show. Be sure to stay tuned to our Facebook channel for information on our next live broadcast, as well as some upcoming topics. And we'll have Doug back as well, so you can look forward to that too, or not. See you soon. Thanks, everybody.